It's still dark when you walk to the end of the driveway. Maybe you've got a kid beside you, backpack half-sipped, breath fogging in the cold. Maybe it's a memory of being that kid yourself. And then it comes around the corner, and before you can read a single word painted on its side, before you can make out the driver or the route number, you already know exactly what it is. That color does the work for you. Every single American has stood at some version of that curb. We've watched that exact shade roll out of the gray morning thousands of times, and somehow not one of us ever stopped to ask the obvious thing. But have you ever wondered, why that exact shade? Who decided that every bus in the entire country had to match? And why does it feel less like a color somebody picked and more like a signal somebody designed? If you've ever wondered how a school bus became the one object in American life that's the same from Maine to California, you're about to find a little piece of history hiding in plain sight, and it goes a lot deeper than yellow as cheerful. For starters, you've probably been calling the color the wrong name your whole life. To understand that color, we have to go back to a time when there wasn't one, because there was barely a bus at all. Picture America in the 1930s. There were more than 100,000 school districts back then, compared to roughly 13,000 today, and almost every one of them was solving the same problem alone. How do you get the children to school? Whatever you've got. Kids climbed into the back of farm trucks. They rode in something called a kid hack. That's an old word for a horse-drawn wagon fitted with benches to haul children, basically a buggy repurposed into a school bus. In at least one Kansas district, students rolled up in a wagon built to carry wheat. And the colors were all over the place because no one had ever said they shouldn't be. Some buses were drab, some were bright. And here's the part that stops you. At least one district painted its buses red, white, and blue. The intention was sweet, stir a little patriotism into the morning commute. But here's where good intentions and good visibility part ways, because a red, white, and blue bus broken up into stripes and fields of color is actually harder for an oncoming driver to pick out of a busy road than a single solid block of one shade. Nobody knew that yet. They were guessing, and they were guessing kindly, and they were sometimes guessing wrong. A man named Frank Sear noticed. He was a professor of rural education at Teachers College, Columbia University, and he took a survey across 10 states. What he found was the chaos we've been describing. Children riding to school in a patchwork of mismatched, sometimes unsafe vehicles, with no rules holding any of it together. The bus manufacturers were frustrated too, for a colder reason. With every district demanding something different, they couldn't mass produce anything or keep the price down. So in April of 1939, with a $5,000 grant from the Rockefeller Foundation, Sear called a meeting. He gathered transportation officials from all 48 states, the people who built the buses, and, this is the part that matters most, the chemists from paint companies like DuPont. They sat down together in a room at the college called the Grace Dodge Room, and they stayed there for 7 days. Now, you'd assume something used by nearly every child in the country must have evolved slowly, drifting toward yellow over generations until it just sort of settled. That's the natural story. It's also wrong. The color of the American school bus was chosen in one room in 1 week off a wall. They hung up around 50 paint swatches, 50 shades of yellow, orange, and everything in between, taped across the wall like a giant fan deck, and argued it out until they agreed on one. By the end of those 7 days, that committee had produced 44 separate standards: how long the body could be, how high the ceiling, how wide the aisle, and one official settled color. Which brings us to the thing you've been getting wrong this whole time. Look at a school bus and you'll call it yellow. Sear wouldn't have. He said plainly that the color was more orange than yellow. And that wasn't a flaw in the choice. That orange lean was the entire point. Here's why. Your eye sees color using cells called cones, and the two most common kinds are tuned to red and to green. The shade they picked sitting right around that orangey yellow lights up your red cones and your green cones at almost the same time, a double signal instead of a single one. That makes it one of the easiest colors for the human eye to catch, especially out of the corner of your vision, the part that notices motion before you've turned to look. Researchers estimate your peripheral vision picks up yellow well over a full step better than it picks up red. And red, for all its drama, nearly vanishes at dusk. This orange-yellow holds on in the half-light of the exact hours children travel. They didn't have all that science in front of them in 1939. They were mostly judging by eye, but the eye they trusted turned out to be right. So the popular idea that buses are yellow because yellow's bright and happy and that some federal law surely forces it gets it backwards on both counts. The hue was engineered for the human retina, not chosen for charm. They named it National School Bus Chrome, wrote it into a 42-page booklet, and sent it up. State by state, districts adopted it until matching simply became what everyone did. A recommendation quietly hardened into a reflex. Which raises the question you're probably already asking. Is it actually the law? Mostly no. There's no federal statute that forces every bus to wear that precise shade. The National Safety Agency recommends it, states wrote it into their own rules, and the convention held, which is somehow the stranger fact that roughly 500,000 buses, a color you've seen 1,000 times, all match not because someone made them, but because everyone agreed to. And here's the other thing people want to know. Does the rest of the world do this? Largely, no. The yellow bus is an American signature. Travel abroad and school transport comes in all sorts of colors. That shade rolling past your house is a quietly local thing you probably assumed was universal, which is what makes it worth seeing clearly. That color isn't decoration. It's a fossil you can flag down, a single decision made by a room full of people over 7 days in 1939, still pulling up to driveways every single morning, decades after every one of them is gone. So the next time that shape comes around the corner in the cold and you know it before you can read a word on it, you'll know you're not just watching a bus arrive. You're watching 1939 turn the corner, and you'll know it was never really yellow. Thank you for watching. If you have ideas for our next video, drop them in the comments below. Tell us the everyday thing you always assumed was just random, and we'll dig into it. Thanks for joining us for another piece of heirloom history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for more of the surprising history behind everyday American life.